I'm Gemma and this is a chat with Gemma. So today I'd like to talk to young people about fear when you're young. And that's not to say that you can't watch this if you're not young. You're very welcome to watch. No big burly security guard's going to come into your house and say, what do you think you're doing? It's perfectly all right. So I know when I was growing up that I had a lot of fears, and if it's any consolation, I don't fear now at this age a lot of the things that I did have fears about then. But I had massive fear of what happens after death, that sort of thing. And I think from my experience, when you're under stress and a bit more on edge about certain things, it just brings up your susceptibility to fears then about other issues. But yeah, we do have a lot of genuine things that we worry about. But when I was young, the only news we had was through the newspaper, which I didn't read, and through the television set. So we still have that, of course, if you've got free TV. The news comes on. You even have news breaks coming on and saying, dum, 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 dum. You know, that we're going to tell you in the news about this terrible thing. So for many years now, I have not watched or listened to the news. Now, I do read a newspaper once a week. How do I find out what's going on? Oftentimes I don't. And I'm 70 years of age and survived without the news all this time somehow. And look, I do pick up things here and there, and people tell me things, or I hear people saying something, or I might be at the gym and I hear something on one of the TVs, or see a little, you know, in those little banners that goes across the bottom of the screen, and I might ask somebody something about it. But by and large, I stay away from the news because I think that it's not good for me. And I don't think it's very good for any young person. Now, if you're doing sort of year 11 or 12 or whatever you might be studying, you might have to pay attention to the news because that's what you're studying, and you have to be able to answer exam questions or do assignments and that kind of thing on issues in the news. But when you're past that, unless you're going to go and be a journalist, it's up to you what you do. But the news to me does two main things. It makes you afraid, or it makes you dislike a group of people or even hate a group of people. So whenever I've listened to the news, I've always come out very worried about, oh, that's such a worry, and also very angry at a group of people. So the news could portray a group of people in such a way that, let's say, no doubt about it, this bunch of people did some terrible thing. And so the news kind of portrays it in such a way that it's almost like as if people of their ethnicity, gender, way of dressing, age, whatever it is, are a big problem. Now, there might be people just like those people that did some horrible thing that would never dream of doing that same thing themselves. Never would occur to them. But yet the news kind of makes us feel angry at the whole group. At the moment, the media, I think, and do I think it's malicious? Yes, I do. I do think it's malicious. I think the news does this on purpose, these things I'm talking about. Why? Because they make money out of it. If they can get you angry and if they can get you afraid, then you are going to run to the television when the news comes on, and you're going to run to the, news agents to buy a newspaper, or you're going to run to your computer to read the news or whatever you do. And also when you bring up a search engine, often there's all these little news items, and so young people are getting it on tablets, computers, their phones, and all sorts of places. And I think that's a lot. So, but as I was going to say, the story at the moment is that people my age have eaten up the world. So we just were so greedy and malicious that we just ate it all up, and poor young people today don't have any world left. Now, I was 36 when I finally got into a house, and I had to save money. I had to work harder to really scrimp and save, and I have a 9 square house. Okay, that's a square is 100 square feet. And when I was growing up, my family never had a meal at a restaurant ever. We certainly never had any trips overseas. We never had trips interstate. We certainly never had anything of the value of a mobile phone. There weren't mobile phones, there weren't computers, of course. We never had anything of the same value. We never had anything the same value as a computer. And when I finally got into my house, I really had to tighten the belt then. I just had to scrimp and save. And it was really difficult for at least 3 years. I mean, I couldn't even afford to go to McDonald's. So I don't know that I see young people living a lot better than that today. So I see this media effort to create enmity between older people my age and young people today as quite malicious. I think it's very unfortunate. Now, I've never had a young person accuse me of this stuff, so I don't think it's coming from young people. I think it's just coming from the media because they want a story, they want to make money out of it. And I think that it's really lovely when young people and older people spend time together and exchange information and help each other, and that's how it should be. Can't we leave those relationships to be good relationships, not ruin them with this rubbish that's based on a bunch of lies anyway and exaggerations? And there might be certain people that have done certain things and other people who absolutely did not do those things. All right, so so there's that creation of enmity. Also, from my experience of the news, and sometimes having to do with the news myself and knowing, the actual story that was taking place and that sort of thing, I can tell you there are some journalists who are good journalists. They tell the truth, so they take it all down, they print it exactly as the person said, and it's all correct. And that absolutely happens. There might be stories that are absolutely, there's not one mistake anywhere. There are other stories where the person just was a bit sloppy and they put she was in a blue dress when she had a red dress on. They're not necessarily trying to do it on purpose. They just made a lot of mistakes. They're in a hurry, they're stressed or whatever. There's exaggerated stories. So there's a story there, but it's not much of a story. So the news people will dramatize it, and they'll use a certain voice when they're telling the story, and big spotlight is put on this story, and it is exaggerated to make something. And then there are the things that are completely false. All right, so let's give an example of perhaps a highly exaggerated story. I know of a story where I wasn't there, but I was told about it. There was a little girl who went to the toilet in a primary school, and a man went into the toilet. So apparently he was a workman that was working there doing some sort of, who knows, concreting or, maintenance, whatever. And he walked into the toilet. She screamed, he walked out. So did he walk in by mistake, or did he have some ill intent? Don't know, I wasn't there. But nothing happened. Nothing happened. The news reported that story as being that a little girl was sexually molested in the toilets of such and such a school. Well, you can imagine the furor. So everybody to do with that school would have been horrified. Parents, children alike, the whole staff would have just been horrified. Everybody, even in that area, would have been horrified. Other schools with other children and other parents would have been horrified. It's a horrible thing to even think about. So that was just blown up by the news. So then there are the stories that are 100% black, lies, wrong, untrue. Yes, for sure, it happens. For example, there was a rather naughty girl, a wicked girl, you might say, but I'll just call her a naughty girl, who brought a bunch of kids to this particular secondary school to fight one girl that she didn't like. And, she got on her phone and created this furor, and they all turned up at the school. So there's a big furor. Teachers, the gardener, everybody had to try to break up this thing and break up all these people. So the principal of the school perfectly rightly expelled the girl. And she's got a duty, the principal, to all of the other children going to the school. So she expelled this girl. So the girl went along. She had found out by now that other schools in the area didn't necessarily want to enrol her after she had been expelled. And for the reason she'd been expelled, because she had created violence. A very serious matter, of course. And so she was finding it very hard, and all of a sudden she did care about it. All of a sudden it seemed to matter to her to be enrolled in a school. So she went to one of the TV stations, and they put a story on one of their current affairs sort of shows. They have one in the early breakfast morning time. And without verifying this girl's story, they just told this made-up story that she'd been expelled for no reason, that she'd done nothing wrong. And one of the staff members said that when he tried to stop her physically from punching this girl, that she turned on him and punched him with everything that she had. Now, it wasn't him that told me that. It was the gardener who was seeing it told me that. So he wasn't saying that himself. And the teacher was quite stressed about it because he was not able to, like, really defend himself against a girl. So she behaved horribly. And here she is and we all watched it on the TV in the staff room, telling this blackest lies. And they even said to her, so did you do anything wrong? She said, no. And so that was the story they gave. So the principal did write a letter. They didn't even have the decency to write back. And she complained that they never once got the true story from her. So that's what they do. So you as a young person might be reading, watching, listening to all kinds of things that are very troubling and very worrying when they're not true or they're exaggerated. And I find it really upsetting when I hear about a particular, quite often it's a girl. I'm not saying it can't happen to boys, but quite often it seems to happen to girls in particular that, they've had to go on to medication just to get through their schooling and cope with life. And I think that's so sad. And I think teachers need to be careful of the things that they teach children, and is it age appropriate? Telling kids the water's going to run out, we're never going to have any rain again, and we're all eating plastic, and there's not going to be any air left to breathe, and they're chopping down all the trees, there won't be any left, and then we're going to cook in the sun. I don't think that's necessary. We don't know that that's absolutely the truth. And how does that help a little child in primary school? And they hear these things said too by adults. So they're going to hear these things because we adults, we do forget that the walls have ears, and we sometimes say things we shouldn't say and don't realise that. And kids do eavesdrop quite often. So they hear all sorts of things. And I think we just have to be careful about weighing kids down with things that they've got no way of controlling. They've got no power over it. I can't go and make peace in Gaza. I can't stop Vladimir Putin from bombing the veggie patches of old people. So children are even less capable of doing anything about these things. And I know I was very worried about it in my day. Of course, as a child, there were various world events going on, of course, that I had to worry about in those times. And I can remember, I don't know, being 9, 10, something like that, and lying in my bed, just about to drift off to sleep, and Mum said, oh, the Russians are going to come and take over Australia and put us all in prison. And I was like, oh no, I was, can imagine, just as you're falling asleep, you feel very vulnerable and like, you feel like as you go into that sleep, you have this sort of state of mind. I don't know, it's just things really get to me then. And I was thinking, maybe if I could write a letter to the king of Russia and just say, please, please, please don't come and attack Australia and put us all in prison. I beg of you, please, please. And of course this never happened. So I could have been allowed to just drift off to sleep that night instead of going into this really dreadful, depressed, worried feeling as a child. So I think that if you are a young person, you need to be kind of very discerning about the things you choose to believe, the things you choose to worry about, because yes, there are, we worry about where we're going to go after, what happens after death. We worry about, is there going to be a war? We do worry about those things. We worry about, can I get my assignment done on time? People get sick, people die. There's enough to worry about just in your individual life. You don't need the world's problems as well. You can't solve any of this by worrying. So just take care of the things you can take care of. Worry about the things that you perhaps it's appropriate to worry about, and just put the other things in a basket of, I don't know whether to believe that, could be completely false, could be exaggerated, might be true, but I have no way of proving or disproving it, so I'm just not going to think about it. And you're going to have a much more enjoyable life. Your peace of mind is so important to your physical health and to your mental health, of course. So please don't carry all those things and get stressed about those things. There is a God. And when you leave this world, when you leave this life, you're going to go back to the God who created you with love. So you're going to think, oh, what did I worry about death for? Just a waste of energy. All right, I'll finish there, but I really wish you the best. And God bless. Bye for now.